radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black. Yeah. Today's Thursday, January 19th, 2023. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and tonight, it's the Leo King. David Palmer is with us, and not only one of the most respected astrologers in the world, and that pretty much goes without saying, but he's somebody that does it his way, and I really appreciate that and respect him so much. And High Vibe TV, his app, he's created that reputation as a spiritual influencer that people listen to, and that includes me. And before I pull him in, his website, of course, is theleoking.com. And he's all over social media and Instagram and all that stuff. Go to leoking.com. You can find everything there. We've got that up on our website and throughout social media. And go and check them out. But I'm just going to say this. We did an event. There's lots of pictures out there and video. We did an event last year. And at that event, David was late. That's right. He's late. And I'm doing my thing as the host. Trying to stretch things out. I'm texting, and I'm getting the string of excuses, and I know he's doing his best. But anyway, he's not there. And I've got hundreds of people that are starting to get a little antsy in front of me. They don't want to hear any more Jimmy Church one-liners. They don't want to hear anything else from me. They just wanted David. And finally, he steps up. I see him walking through the crowd, right? And he steps up on stage. And without missing a beat, I sat down and I watched and I listened. And the amount of respect and the love that came off of that audience and back onto that stage was something just wonderful to witness. And I learned a lot that day. And that being said, you can go read your own bio on David. We've got it below. And I'm going to bring in the new singer for Black Flag, David Palmer, the Leo King.
Here I am. That was a great intro. Thank you so much. Especially the amount of people that were stressed of me being late on the phones. And it was Disclosure Fest, which is such an amazing festival. And I felt so bad I was in traffic, but it was really very Leo of me to walk in with thousands of people at the festival and the 500 people at that was your stage.
Yeah.
And then I see Ben Carson, who's about to get on after me, looking at me, and everybody's looking at me, and I just come up there with a soda and my sunglasses on, and I just started going, all right, well, here we go. Boom. And it was a moment, man.
And see, the thing is, everything that I just said was the absolute, I didn't, it sounds like I exaggerated, but no, that's exactly how it went down. Welcome back, my friend. Tell me the truth before we get started tonight. All right. How did the auditions go for Black Flag? It looks like you made it, right? You're in the band?
I think they're doing a movie like they did that Elvis movie, and I think, I have a good chance.
You got a good shot at it? You're playing the part? Tell me the truth. Do you miss the bunker? Do you want to be here? Do you miss
I do want to, but you know what? I just miss hanging with you, and I do love the bunker, and I love outside the bunker at your spot, looking at UFOs. You taught me so much just in that one time.
You taught me, you taught me so much that night. It was pretty funny how the two of us sitting there in the dark, just looking up at the stars and you asking me questions and I'm, whatever. And I'm asking you, what's that over there? Well, that's, and we did that for hours, man.
Hours.
Yeah. I
It was
learned so
fun,
much.
and all the people you brought by, and there was so many good people, and I just literally love, those are the moments that make life so worth doing this work, is when, how you and I met, and then continuing the friendship and really piggybacking off each other with our knowledge and having fun with others and seeking all the exciting things there is in the universe and in life in general, so.
You know what I remember from that night? Let me ask, I haven't even talked to you about this. Well, you don't know what I'm going to ask, but was that we had Whitley Strieber there that night.
I know.
And so to have that was a pretty rounded crowd that we had over for dinner, right? There was just a good mix of people, right? Different minds and things. But then there's Whitley and talking and watching everybody so focused and the ability to ask, Whitley questions, and he's just so open about everything, and including
solid.
with you.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
solid.
Yeah, it was a great night. Okay, 2023, my friend, 2023. Before we get fully started, I have seen throughout social media, it doesn't matter the platform, and I don't think the majority are from our community. I'm just talking about general stuff, right? In a general sense, that 2023 is the great year, right? And I see it repeated over and over again. And I know that you've seen it. What do you think about those comments? Is it because everybody's just tired of the last 2 or 3 years and are exhausted, which I can understand? Or is this something else that's going on?
I think people are tired, but at the same time, our solar system is at the most intense place we're ever going to see in our lives. The changing of not just a page or a chapter, but a book we've never titled or seen before. You and I, on our last time I was on your program, were talking about Planet X.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have, James Webb Telescope, but astrologically speaking, or just even planetary speaking, seeing the planet Pluto, seeing the planet Saturn moving into these new places. And the last time that we saw Pluto, of course, move into Aquarius was the Revolutionary War, literally, right when the Declaration of Independence was signed, and the winter of Washington going, I don't know if this is going to happen, right? And the years that they had to fight, and the uniqueness of a country to govern itself, and that the people were going to govern itself. It was tried in the 1650s in England, didn't work out too hot. So getting rid of the monarch and chopping off his head, that didn't work out.
Right.
So the idea, though, in that whole way of where we're at now with this great year, I guess, if that's what people are calling it, I haven't seen that actually, but it's the beginning of that new book, which we've all been waiting for. In our community, we hear disclosure a lot, right? To me, it's more about revealing and starting to see the beginning title of this new story and book that we've all been knowing is out there. And so it's the discovery. It's the discovery of where humanity is going to leap in its evolution. It's this discovery of where we can actually be better people and more in alignment, even though it looks like the opposite's happening. It's all going to be the world that's inverted. And that's what's so exciting to me. And this Comet 2022 that's come in, which I don't know if you saw, but just in the last 5 hours, the tails already started to break apart.
It is sort of, but
Right?
I look at it the opposite. It looks like it's getting longer. So
And that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it looks like it's getting longer. I'll tell you I didn't want to get into the comet so quickly because that's such a great conversation that we're going to have tonight. But it doesn't matter what headline or website you go to about that. There's two words there that stick out in every single headline: towards Earth.
Right.
That's pretty wild, man. That's pretty wild. And no matter what cameras are looking at it from here on Earth, but from the angle that we're on, it's moving down, right?
Right.
It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not doing, no, it's towards, right?
Towards Earth. And
Towards
in between Earth and Mars, which happened to just pass each other in the last couple months, where we were the closest that we could be to Mars.
Yep.
And it's interesting, if you look at the Great Comet of 1811, which brought on the War of 1812, the Napoleon Wars, same place in the sky the comet would look. And if you were to use Ptolemy in astrology, he wrote, and for many, many thousands of years, the older astrologers and even the Romans and Greek astrologers always said a comet is, you pay attention to it just as much as a solar eclipse or, of course, the planets, because it's something we're able to see. It's something that we can track and we can see, and where in the area, in the zone of the sky is it happening, and to pay attention to, and what planets is it happening close to. And so it's interesting that it's happening by Mars the same way it did in 1811, ironically enough, the Great Comet of 1811, in the same area, in the same zodiac signs, right? So it's been moving, a lot, but it's kind of got a really weird orbit, this one. And it also is really weird to me that we didn't see it till 50,000 years prior, but then we're not going to see it for over 1 million years.
It maybe never.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is like a out of control sperm or something. I have no idea. That's the way I look at it.
Right. The projections, right? The computer modeling on this right now are saying that this is it. This 1 million years or maybe never. It just might not be back. It's that crazy of an orbit. Let's get back to this, though. The comet is a huge conversation. Back to, we're at the start of 2023 here. What you and I are doing an event here in a couple of weeks. Yeah, a huge one. And we've got stuff going on all year. How are things looking? Let's go with this first month and a half through February and the end of February, which for me are some very important dates.
Well, I feel it's kind of ironic because it's the Chinese New Year that's happening on Saturday for us. Of course, in China, it'll be Sunday, but on the 21st. So we're having the new moon in Aquarius, which every new moon in Aquarius is what brings in the new Chinese New Year. So we're moving into the water rabbit, moving out of a water tiger, but we've been in the yang water, the masculine water. We're moving to a yin water, and it's the rabbit. So it's definitely a different energy. And a tiger doesn't like to sit in water, right? And just have to sit and wait. And that's what this whole last 2022 felt like, just kind of sitting and waiting for a moment to pounce. And tigers don't want to be in water. So, things are definitely, I think, going to be feeling a much more free than they did in 2022 felt like it. Well, it is free, but it kind of feels like it's kind of cycling around. And we had the great conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in their home signs of Pisces, and they've now passed. So 2022 really doesn't feel like it's ended. It's really this February that's feeling like the beginning of 2023. That's what's odd, is because we've been seeing a rare configuration from September and October of 2022, which is finally finishing, oddly enough, this week, where in September of 2022, we had 6 planets that were retrograde. To have 6 planets retrograde is very rare in a year, just one moment of time. And now finally on the 22nd of January, Uranus will station direct and every planet will be direct. So there'll be no retrogrades. And so that's where it's going to start to feel like, oh, and we entered this year with a Mars retrograde when the Earth was passing Mars. So that's not normal either. So that doesn't feel like a kick off the new year. It didn't, even every picture I saw, or every event I saw just kind of felt like it's 2023, I guess. It felt like the calendar system we're on is not the definition of our time. And I think people are starting to finally realize that there is something about the universal time, even this comet appearing, or the way that the planets move and the way that our ancients have always done it, that, you know, what are we going to really define as a new year in life? You know, this calendar system is not on. So it's interesting to see that February is the beginning of the feeling of 2023, but the odd part is it's the in-between month between March, whereas the actual shift of Pluto into Aquarius, which hasn't happened since 1777, right? Major changeover. And then you have Saturn moving into Pisces, which hasn't happened since 94. But with the planet Neptune being in Pisces, we haven't seen these two planets in the same area since 1523. So we're moving into massive new territory in March, and February is the beginning of this new year, but it's also the end of, I would say, what the last millennium has felt like, and the beginning of this new millennium too at the same time.
So that's
millennium.
Yeah. And that's a very interesting point because historically, I think that all of us felt, Christmas and New Year's, after New Year, it's like, all right, let's go. Here we go. Right. And the new year was here. But what you're suggesting now, and now that you've said it, now I recognize it. Thanks for that, David. I appreciate that. But that the new year, so are you saying that it's going to feel like, new year in a couple of weeks?
Already by the end of this week, by the 22nd of January, but there's some odd angles that are making things really interesting with Mercury and Mars in a quincunx, we call it, 150-degree angle. And if you were to look at it three-dimensionally from a helio point of view, Mercury's just past Earth, so we're out of the retrograde. Earth's moving past Mars, and this is where all three of them are looking like we're all not on the same orbits, that's for sure. It's like where the planets can have an awareness and we can actually see scientifically why every planet has their own orbit, that they actually get this actual view. And what that looks like in astrology is an odd angle where Mercury and Mars, they create a line of sight with each other, but Earth is to the side, kind of looking at like, I'm not in their line of sight. So it's a really weird moment where Mars and Mercury are looking at each other. And this is what's been kind of this agitation of like, everything feels like it's starting to move, but we're not right there just yet. And that's what's turning over this week into, especially with all the planets direct. But as we come into the very 1st of February, boom. And the Chinese New Year, which actually is very important in astrology.
And the comet. And
the comet, which is going to be at its closest to Earth, February 1st and 2nd. No coincidence.
Oh, man. So we should feel pretty good then? Are you saying that we should feel that energy?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's for people who are excited about the unknown. Yes, you're going to feel excited. For those that want to cling on to the old way and not evolve and see where the excitement of the unknown is, it could be very difficult.
Can we back up a little bit? Let's go back 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. When Mars ducked behind the moon and we had that alignment.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was cool. Man, I'm standing out in your favorite spot. I'm standing in the David Palmer Memorial spot in the backyard. I'm right there. I'm in. So that's where I'm at. And I'm watching this. And what I didn't expect was how fast it happened. Right? Because if you looked at it, especially as it got close, you were watching Mars move. right? And it didn't. Normally with that celestial stuff, you're standing in the backyard for 4 hours, before this was going down, and to see that happen,
It will never happen in our life again.
ever, and I watched it. I felt it. I knew that I was seeing history at that moment. How important was that for the world?
It was extremely important. It happened where of course, where the Earth passed Mars at the exact moment that Earth was exactly in line of sight, passing Mars and saying, "Hi, we're in the exact same alignment, in alignment with the sun."
And the
Is the
moon.
exact moment that we were in a full moon, the exact moment. So the moon and the Earth were both aligned, looking at Mars with the sun, and all at the same time in the most, you can't get any more perfect, right? So it's like an eclipse, but it's not. It's kind of weird. And also, if you were to be on Mars, I thought about it that way, like, right? Like that would almost be like how we saw the
It
transit
would be
of
an
Venus.
eclipse. Yeah, it would be an eclipse for Mars. You would see
You would
our Earth hidden by the moon.
Yeah, and I looked up the declinations, and it would have been just the most smallest bit. I thought it was interesting that no astrophysicist or anybody talked about it or put any info or thought about it, or we used the rover to look up or take a picture. Maybe they did, we don't know.
Yeah.
But definitely it was an earth-shaking moment because it's, with all this stuff that we've been seeing about war, this is where the ancients or even modern astrologers, right? Mars is war. And to have it exactly also in a position to where, we have the fixed star Aldebaran that's out there too. Now, of course, it's way up high in declination. Mars is high in declination, and Aldebaran sits below, like 23 to 24 below negative, right? So in south. So they were way off, but they're still in that same spot. And so it's like that's the military star, which is interesting. So there's been a lot about military. And so that brought up a lot about where we have to start thinking about, are we just going to do World War III again? Are we just going to really just not listen to history? Are we going to really fight with each other anymore? But also it's a fight for truth. That's what that full moon represented with the occultation of Mars. To exactly cover Mars. And that's where it's like people are afraid to speak, but it's also at the same time turning the tide where people are like, you know what? I'm going to speak truth, and we are allowed to. That's what we're here and our rights are. So it's a very interesting moment because we'll never see it in our lives again. And if you think of where we're at in the world right now and about free speech, and about expression too, and also not judging people by their expression of how they want to be and so forth. We have to find that there's a common denominator of us as humans, and so I think it's a beautiful moment, but it comes with that harshness of truth of we got to face the stuff and we can't just avoid it, and we've got to find ways for everybody to come together and figure these things out. There's solutions that can be found when more people are contributing in the problems with solutions that they have. And when we suppress that, it makes problems worse. If you just put it to just a certain amount of people,
Right. I love this comment from Adam Bicycle. Martian Talk Radio talking about the same thing right now from their perspective.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually a fascinating comment, Adam. There has to be, and when we talk about physics and probability and numbers and the size of the universe and what's going on and things and particles and combinations, that there has to be, it's just a numbers game. It's a fact that you and I are out there somewhere else doing this.
Right.
That's it. There is another version of us out there somewhere. Okay. All right. Crazier than that, there is two guys like us, not us, on talk radio talking about exoplanets, and we just found this little blue planet over on that section of the galaxy that looks like there might be life on it. Just like we are doing the same thing when we talk about the heavens. And I know it sounds crazy. It sounds like I'm smoking weed. I get that. But that's the reality of it. And I love that part. So I'm not sure if it's going down on Mars, but it would be cool. And if it was going down on Mars, that's what they would be saying, right? Wasn't it a trip?
Well, think about how much, if you look at the next time that the Earth is going to pass Mars, we're entering into the phase in which we can actually start to get to Mars the best ways. The way that if you start looking at all of the countries and the money that are sending their Mars missions for the next passes of the Earth and Mars, whether it's from Elon Musk to NASA to every other country, it blew my mind when I started to look at the 2024 and 2026 especially. Oh my gosh, it's like they have a period where they know these are going to be the times. And Mars cycles are very interesting. Of course, with the Earth passing Mars, there's times where we're closest and then the most far away from it. It's almost like they like having it far away because they can actually like send the trajectory to give it a little bit more time to, I don't know, I'm not an astrophysicist, but it made me really interested to see like, why didn't they use this point when, especially in 2020, that was the closest Earth Mars pass that we would ever have in our life. The closest, right? You would think, isn't that when you would shoot it all off? But no, it's actually when we start going farther away again that they want to. And I thought of it just kind of in my own layman's terms, like, well, maybe you'd want a little bit more access. You want the line of sight, but you kind of maybe want, it's kind of like docking a big yacht. I kind of want a little bit more time and space before I just jam in the yacht,
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah, we got to let the tide maybe come up just a little bit more before we pull this beast in. And you're right, though. I watched a documentary on Curiosity and the construction of it. They had that window, right? They had that one. They knew when they were launching, right? And so 2-3 years before that, they get your shit done.
Yeah.
Right? This is the date. We're not missing this and waiting 2 more years. And this date we keep seeing this 2024 launch window and 2026 and Mars and getting
Mars. It's all Mars, man, and Moon, but mainly Mars. Like
mainly Mars, and it's a perfect launch window, and it's all going down for sure. 2024 and 2026, we're going to see some crazy stuff happen.
And I want to say this about that full moon. That was a very crazy day in headlines. That was the runoff in the Senate that they did in Georgia that was done. That was when Trump's company got guilty for fraud. That was when the House January 6th committee signals it would issue criminal referrals. Right. So whenever you're dealing with Mars and a full moon, and it's a very rare moment there because that's from Earth's point of view, Mars retrograde. So a full moon on Mars retrograde exact. And to think the month prior was a lunar eclipse exactly in conjunction with the planet Uranus. Exact. So it was 2 back-to-back months of a full moon occulting a planet.
It's such, and you felt the vibe. I mean, I felt the energy from that. Now, before we swing back forward into the comet, I also want to go back. I did a live stream of this because I was on the freeway when the first part of it was going down. About a year ago, a little less, maybe 9 months, we had the red moon full lunar eclipse. And I'm going to say the Mars, that was pretty incredible. We had the Venus Saturn thing going on with the moon. That was pretty cool too. We can't forget about that. But that red moon full eclipse night, I did a live stream from my car. I'm racing to get home. I'm watching it from the freeway. It was the spookiest, craziest thing. It's right there, right?
Right. And there was clouds that were coming through for us, which is not normal. And then you could see it. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. And then I watched it. Then I watched it go down and videotaped and live streamed. How powerful is something like that when it goes down so beautifully? The combination of a hot summer night, right? A full on eclipse,
Right.
and those colors. Wow, it was just insane.
Well, and the fact that we've been lucky on the West Coast of being in the Americas to be able to see lunar eclipses. Now, that was the last one we're going to get to see for years. So that was the unique part. But the other unique part of it is in the area in which we saw this. So you always go back about 19 years. So 2003 into 2004, which was the Iraq invasion. And, you start looking at things and you start going, and then you think of the one not an eclipse, but the full moon that happened right after on top of Mars. The military buildup over the last couple months during these eclipse energies, while there was also another full moon with an occulting Mars. That's been the interesting part, is about so much about military. Or then finally, right after that, right where you live, we got to see the new B-21 bomber.
Yeah, the B-21 Raider.
So,
and,
like, if you think about it, if you look back at 1940, before 41, when we went to Pearl Harbor, that was when the government was saying that we were going to release our new American fighters. Of course, they were prop planes, but we weren't in a war yet. So it was like, here's the building up and telling the press and telling the people, we got these new warplanes we're going to be bringing out. We're going to be testing them. We're going to be putting them all out. So it's like, wait, what? Are we going back in time again? Are we in a time capsule?
Well, it was that way, though, because if you think about it, when that was going down, there was all of the questions of Russia invading Ukraine.
Of course.
And the buildup on the borders no, we're not going to do it. And we were watching the tense situation as the world was watching that. All of us were. That was happening at the same time. So yeah, you're exactly right. The timing on that is nearly spot on.
Yeah, they stopped putting Arby's commercials like at the beginning of the invasion. Do you remember that? That happened right at the beginning of 2022. There's no more Arby's commercials when they're playing this stuff anymore. We'll be right back. Kiev is being bombed, and then get chicken fried something. It was just like, okay, this is 2022, but now in 2023, it's like, I feel like, people are at a point to where are the conversations being had? I'm not a hippie, but I'm a hippie, if that makes sense. I'm somebody who wants love, compassion, and I'm an astrologer. So I look at the science and the planetary aspects, and I use the ancient wisdoms of how they were looking at these things to help the world. And back when there was magistrates on the courts and the senates in Rome, they would be allowed to offer their, opinions of why there was a famine or why these things were happening. The fact that not even, I don't care if it's not me or any other astrologer, but just that we're not getting any conversations about anything going on in the world anymore at all. Of course, they are happening on shows like this, but it's like they've created an environment where it's such a spider's web where there's no way to let there be some sort of debates anymore, or be even like at the university level. Like, I've been putting some Timothy Leary stuff up about the Jordan Peterson stuff going on. And I'm like, why isn't, Jordan Peterson doing a Timothy Leary thing? He went and got broadcasted his ability to have his arguments out there and about how maybe the world could be different in a different way. We're not seeing any of that.
And that's an interesting point, because if we and not to say that some of the recent craziness over the last 3 years didn't represent that to some degree, for sure. But if we go back historically, and it doesn't matter what period in history, whether it was in Europe or it was here recently, but we did have people speaking up.
Yeah.
We did have things happening. We did have public debates, public discord.
Yeah.
Right. Where different minds would get together, and at the end of the night, and they're going to, they still shook hands.
Oh yeah, and I mean I don't drink, but they'd still maybe toasted to a whiskey drink, or that's the crazy part, is that we're actually in the astrology of where it's really weird. Big events happen and not a lot of people say stuff, and it's always after the events will happen that we redo the system and how we communicate those things. But I'm doing everything I can to put out the word that we don't have to repeat history. I hope not. I mean, astrology is so real that it's like, it's really good at indicating the history and what's to look at. And it's one of those moments where I'm like, can we be the evolved human species now that doesn't repeat it and learns and actually applies it? That's my biggest question to all things in life, being an astrologer, is can we avoid the same pattern by finally turning the tide and being aware of it,
And here's and let me answer that. We can.
Yeah.
We can. We have the tools. We are, I think, we're more mature than we were, and we're growing up. We're like the age of 21, 22, right? That's how old we are, where we're like, maybe we need to think about this and maybe settle down and start to get a little responsible about things. That's where we are. But you still screw up at the age of 21, 22 too. So hopefully we don't. But I think that we can. David,
well, I believe you 100%. I feel like your show, there's so many other people putting the word out, but especially when we do Conscious Life Expo or any of these events where we all get together and get to speak about it. And I think it's so important for people to come together now and come to events and go where other people with the same energy and even different parts of the energy get to come together and all get to experience all these different ideas and all these different ways. And that's why we have panels. I mean, that's why I love Conscious Life Expo, is because it really is the biggest spiritual conference in the world. It's the one where we all come together. We come on panels. We have individual workshops. We hang out. We get to hang out with each other the whole time. It's like the best moments of the spiritual community are Conscious Life Expo, where everybody's together for multiple days and we all are getting all of it together. And it's a supercharge that lasts till the next one always. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
This one I feel is going to be the most powerful one that's ever happened.
I think so too. And when you attend, especially Conscious Life Expo is a really good example of this, in that it's not one thing. It's everything is going down. So you have the conscious community, right? Hardcore conscious community, dreams and self-improvement and stuff. You've got UFOs and contact and disclosure and lost history and Egypt. And there's why, and it's branches that probably have Bigfoot in there somewhere. We've got Susan Slaughter doing seances.
Right.
There's
health stuff.
And we've got this crazy ass dude that's going to be DJing. And I can't wait.
I don't even know how it all happened, but yeah, I'm DJing Friday night, and then I'm doing a panel on Sunday for the astrology panel I always do, and then doing a workshop.
And so with that, you can have, and I talk to people the whole time that I'm there. You know what I do, right? I'm all over, and so I'll go up to somebody who is there, and it's obvious, right? It's a conscious vibe, right? And they're there, and they happen to go in to Scott Walter's panel, and it learns about the hooked and ruin stones from Scandinavia, right? The hooked X from Jerusalem, and they come out. They weren't looking for, but they have an open mind, right? And it's the ability to come together and not question anybody, not worry about somebody's, why they are here or anything. No, it's everybody brought together. That's how it was when we were growing up. And I don't understand where we got that change in values, where it was okay to be different.
Right. That's what's so beautiful about it. I love that you bring that up. It reminds me of a real life movie theater, the biggest one in the world. But when you're walking into the movie theaters, these lectures, these panels, it's real life. And then we all get to come back and meet where the popcorn is, which is actually much bigger than that. Everybody's got their booths and tables and their businesses and all that stuff to share. And we all hang out in the middle there. And it's for 3-4 days.
That's exactly right. Do you remember events like you and I are? I'm a little older than you, not much. We're the same age. That and I tell the story all the time. It's 12 years old, 13 years old, 15 years old, right? 4th of July. It's 4th of July.
Insane,
yeah,
wild.
And you're out in front on your street. And so you've got your house, and across the street is some computer geek, and over here is a family from India, and over here is a black family. He's an insurance salesman, and down the street, this guy's a Vietnam veteran that works on his Harley every day in his garage, right. And then over here, right, this mix of a street, of a block, right?
Always.
4th of July, everybody is out, hanging out, drinking, cooking, blowing shit up, right?
Flags on every lawn that you never know who paid for them or who put them on, but somebody did the work. It put a flag on every single person's house and lawn.
Yeah.
That always blew my mind. I'm like, who did that?
And where is that today? Now, now it's not cool to be different. It's like, wait, what? No, that's not me. And we need to get back to that, man. And
that's what Conscious Life Expo really is. And I think on such a profound level for where we were just talking about with where the world is and where the astrology is. I mean, this is a new huge book for humanity, the evolutionary. I believe in evolution. I'm very evolutionist. And so we are evolving as the human species, and we have some choices of how it's going to go. And I think everybody has to be at the table, and people don't feel like they can. They think they can only do it through political or something. It's like, no, the people, when we come together, come up with the ways to make the changes. And so I think it's like, that's what makes it so beautiful, is like, people don't feel like they have a place to go. And it's like, with all the events that are being done in the spiritual community that have been going on for so long, people are just finding out about these events. And it's like, hey, Conscious Life Expo has been going on like 20 years now, but it's grown now to where all these Disclosure Fest, all these amazing festivals, people are ready to start coming, and everybody feels part of it. It's not like if you're not a speaker, you're not part of it. You're part of it the second you walk in that door.
You are 100%. You are in the mix. That's all you got to do. You just got to walk through the front door. Now, with that in mind, we've got the event coming up in less than 3 weeks.
I know.
It's going to be right here. Between that event, which is what we were just talking about, is everything that's going on with astrology. And then the unexpected, right? Here we have comet ZTF coming straight through. Historically speaking, comets are part of the record.
Yep.
We can go back thousands and thousands of years, and to figure out dating and years and where these calendars are, you just go, they marked the comet here, so we know that they were at this point in history. But all cultures knew that comets were important, and they took the time to document this and put it into the historical record. Right? How important were comets to not only ancient history, but let's go with the Egyptians and where the comets were always marked and noted.
They were all noted because of their, if anything, they're the exclamation point to whatever is happening in our solar system. They add the magnifying glass on the situation. They are the disruptive force that comes out of nowhere and is seen in a way that it actually literally is almost like a pointer too, right? The tail, the head of the comet, where is it pointing? And the tail always being faced where the sun is, which is always a weird point too, right? So you look at both parts of the sky. The ancients used to look at where's this headed in the like they would look at not just the 12 zodiac constellations of the tropical zodiac that we hear in astrology. They would actually look, of course, because they don't run on that all the time. They're so high in declination, how high you can go, and there's so many different zodiac, signs out there. And so when you look at all these different parts of our whole entire zodiac, those areas, they say wherever the head's headed, definitely there's disruptive forces, but it's usually where the tail is at that the calamities happen most. And the way that the tail is, if the tail comes in solid and good by the time it gets closest to Earth, that's a good omen. If it's breaking apart, it's a bad omen. But now I'm not going to say that's true, but there is something interesting to say that that's been the most recorded out of the India, because India is the ones that really were recording a lot of this data, and the Romans a lot. Right? Yeah. They were putting it with more of the theology element to it than I would say than I've been able to find with any theology of Egypt ethology of what it actually means.
Well, what about the Greeks? Okay, no, let's circle
back. Yes,
back.
The Greeks and the Romans, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then you can go back into the historical record and you do this, right? So you go and you pinpoint this date in history and you're looking at the astrology and what was going on in the event. But here we have these exclamation points, right, of comets, and they're all there, right? They're all in parts. And then we are able to look at that time in history and see what was happening globally and around the world during these comet events.
Right. Like Mark Twain was born with Halley's Comet, and then he wrote when he knew Halley's Comet was coming back in that he would leave with Halley's Comet, and he did leave this earth with Halley's Comet.
75 years.
Right. So it's like, okay, that's an easy way for people to understand how, okay, but with this comet, what makes it so unique is how long ago it was, and it was when Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were on the planet and the evolution of humanity at that point. So that makes me think of we're evolving astrologically. We already know with these transits coming to the next form of human evolution from where we're calling ourselves today. And then you're getting that comet that was at that transformational point where they were both on the earth. And we're kind of at this place where some people might say there's two different versions of human on the earth at the moment. And where are we evolving to? That's an interesting way to look at it. If you use the ancient way of looking at it and throwing in all those kind of pieces.
I'm just going to show this to you really quick.
Yeah.
I just realized in I guess that's Australia, the calendar is 2023, 2023.
I don't know which AU calendar.
Yeah, I see. I was hoping you would be able to.
There's a lot of calendars. I mean, Saudi Arabia didn't get on the Gregorian calendar till 2015. So
yeah, I realized in AU astronomical units. What? Okay, XR. That's you made the screen. Now you have to explain it to us.
Right.
Yeah, Australia 2023 year 20. Okay, now hold on. Do we have a correction? Sorry, 2023 year 2020. Okay, XR, you lost us for a second there, though. It was pretty badass.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I didn't know Australia had their own calendar.
It's a military time calendar by day. So, anyway, and then I think we have this crazy X factor. It's green. It's green with the blue.
Never been recorded, and it's always white, yellow, sometimes a light brown or something they said in the ancients, but never green.
Never green. Never green. What does that mean?
Well, if the jokester in me is like, it's the Wizard of Oz finally showing up, but
Right.
the deeper part of myself and the truth would be, well, we need to pay attention to this more. There's something new coming in. It's new. There's something new coming in. And scientifically, to understand that coloring, there's everything from, I don't know, we are seeing so many weird things in our solar system with the planets and understanding what they do with their electromagnetic fields, the sun and what it's been doing, and how we're now understanding overlapping in solar cycles of solar minimums and how that's creating more flaring.
Right.
So it's like, what's really happening with the, activity of, if we're saying it's coming from the sun, or we're saying that maybe that's the coloring from the sun and the solar radiation or the solar particles. It's a deeper question now of like, what's different about the sun? I thought it was interesting, like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, Elon Musk tweeted a question to people: what color is the sun?
I did see that. Yeah.
And then he said it was green. When you're up in space, supposedly. And I'm like, I've never heard that. Where is he getting that? And that's what made me go instantly when they said it was green. I thought about that. I'm like, what's going on? You know what I mean? What's going on with the sun, or what is up with the sun? Because, comets are related to the sun. Everything's related to the sun in the solar system. Or even the fact that, that X factor point is also the fact that James Webb Telescope is finding atmospheric exoplanets that we're finally seeing. I mean, to see all the pictures that we've been seeing, especially when I looked at, the creation, the walls of creation of the star clouds, to see the Hubble one in 95 and to see the now, I was seeing characters in them. It was crazy. I was like, what is that? That's not what I thought it, like, whoa. And it's making us realize how much more alive this universe might be and how much we do not really know. And that's what I think is the best part, is to not act like we know, but to be more excited to learn and to continue this fun process, putting it together.
So today they released, I don't have the image here. I wouldn't do it for the show anyway. I don't want to get sideways. We mapped and cataloged the side view of the Milky Way, a big chunk of it.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. Do you see that image?
It's wild.
Dude, right now you look, we all have this image of the Milky Way. Or,
I know.
We have this image of the universe, and then you see that, and it's just a small section of the side of the Milky Way.
Yeah, look, it looks like, how on iPhones we take panorama shots?
Yeah.
It looks like James Webb switched to panorama mode and went, can you do the Milky Way real quick?
Yeah. And you can't, there are so many stars and stars. You can't even see between them.
I know.
It's like a Jackson Pollock painting, right? It's like,
yeah. And I thought it was interesting. It was in 2020, one of the great discoveries, but it got overshadowed by the pandemic and so forth, was the discovery that in between our galaxies, that there is no dark matter between, that they all extend into each other. So like, as they spiral around, that the end of the spirals actually spiral into the other galaxy, right? I remember that being like, whoa. So they're not really separate. The idea is that they look separate.
Well, they just so that was released today, right? The Edge View mapping, and I think they got 3.2 billion objects catalog. That's a pretty thick book, by the way, if you think about it. If it was printed out, it's a pretty thick book. But last week they announced that they found the outer edge of the Milky Way. Now, I remember that. Yeah. So the Milky Way I can't do this on camera because of the lights that are in here, but we know that our Milky Way, it's a spiral, right? Let me see. Yeah, it's the lights in here. I can't do it, but there's a spiral here that a little spiral, and that we know that from side to side on this spiral is 150,000 light years across. That's pretty damn big, right? That's 150,000 years at the speed of light it would take you to go from one side of our Milky Way to the other. Gives you an idea how big the Milky Way is. But then they found the outer reaches of the Milky Way.
Right.
This is 150,000 light years. That it's 1 million light years from the center, not across, right? From the center out, 1 million, and that it reaches almost to Andromeda. What did you just say? Galaxies are connected.
Yeah.
Right. And so Andromeda, our closest galactic neighbor, 2.5 million light years away. Right. And that's a lot of light years.
That's not an easy trip. Make sure you have a comfortable seat.
And it turns out that we're actually touching each other.
Right. It reminds me of, wormholes now. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes me think of Pythagorean and people think of his theorem, but when you look into his quaternary math and that there's trans numbers, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the numbers between, like 3 from 1 to 2 is 3. And you start thinking of the half of a circle, and to create the other half of a circle is what you don't see, but you can understand with the math on how they use it for the sun and the earth and the moon.
Right.
Idea, right?
Right.
And this is old math, right? But it's funny, most people don't know. But when I started thinking about all this stuff with the galaxies and the understanding of the Milky Way and our multiverse, it made me start thinking in a Pythagorean way of like, what if what we see is one part, but then there's this whole other side to access that we just need to understand the math and how that's brought over, the same way that if our eclipses are so perfect and the exact position of the moon is in the right place from the distance of the earth, but the sun is also the right distance for the earth and the moon to eclipse so perfectly, where are we going to start finding the math of these perfect, I would call them divine mathematics in this? And where is that in this stuff is, I think, where we're going.
That math that you're talking about, with a physicist or, an astrophysicist, they can see what it represents, right? They can see it. Yeah. They can see. And for us to see the math, they have to write it down. They have to tell us what the math is. But you're right. They see the other half of that circle. They see it. They see it in the math. They can look at it and see what it represents. A multiverse, a parallel world, another dimension, whatever it may be, they can look at the math and see that. And will we, with our level of understanding right now, we have a ceiling of what you and I can theoretically understand. We're pretty smart.
Right.
But we're not that smart. Right. But there will be a time when we do see, when we do understand, when we look at that and we do see another dimension. Right.
Yeah, that's where this is all moving, is the end of our tropical zodiac, which is Aquarius and Pisces, and seeing Pluto here and then Saturn and Neptune. The last time Saturn and Neptune came together was in 1989. And then they were together through 90 into 91. And this is where the internet and computing became actually very commercialized, but it was still more on a private level because it was so expensive. But pretty quick, they brought it to market. And now with Saturn and Neptune coming together again, it's like, where we're going into the most boundless parts. Pisces is such a huge zodiac sign because it's one of the widest and so many stars, and it becomes to where we go so far beyond we can almost get lost because it's so wow. but also with Aquarius too. So there's this really interesting energy where we are all at that point to where what else is left but to see what is not seen. Like we've seen everything that there is to be seen, but then there's also the oddity of like, in 2021, it was when the UK scientists said that like octopuses are actually sentinel beings.
Yeah, that they were extraterrestrial.
Correct.
Yes.
And then I saw recently that one little, I don't know, it was on Instagram or something. Some fisherman caught this clear little octopus that looked like an alien from Independence Day. Right?
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
And I was like, that's what's weird about this Pluto and how they don't count it as a planet, but yet they're so obsessed. They'll take a lot of pictures of it. They always mention it. And I'm like, okay, because that's what's weird is Pluto's orbit so long around the sun, but it also gets in the zone right now where it stays in parts of the sky longer than the shorter form that it was over the 1900s, right? So the 2000s are where we go into where it was into the late 1700s, into the 1800s, where it just starts to go really far out and we start to really expand our minds and really try some things we never tried before. So, but there's the other part where we're not conscious of Pluto. It was found in 1930. So this is where we get to see Pluto consciously, that we can verify that it's there, and it's going into the realms of exposing things that are underneath us at the same time while as above. So it's like there's a lot more in the oceans or even in our own world we don't understand. At the same time, holy cow, what else is going on up there? And there's a connection to all that at the same time too.
Let's take a break right here. Let's get this in. Dave, stay right there. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. And we'll be right back. Check out Billy Carson's Forbidden Knowledge. ForbiddenKnowledge.com or ForbiddenKnowledge.tv, where you can get access to over 6,000 videos, movies, TV series, exclusive documentaries like the Black Knight Satellite. You can do it all for just $7.77 per month or $77 per year after the 3-day trial, which is also totally free to check out. It's all simple to do. Billy Carson is the best. It's simple. ForbiddenKnowledge.com or ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's the number 4BK. I will be hosting and emceeing the Conscious Life Expo this February 10th through the 13th at the LAX Hilton right here in Los Angeles, California. 200 speakers, including Linda Moulton Howe, Bashar, Deborah King, George Norrie, Daniel Sheehan, Scott Walter Johnstone, and David Wolf. Over 200 vendors, special events. This is the biggest event of its kind on planet Earth. You've got to come and hang out with all of us. Tickets and info at ConsciousLifeExpo.com. The links are below. On Saturday, April 1st, that's right, April Fool's Day 2023, I will be hosting the Parapod Festival at the Hyatt Regency right here in Valencia, California. It's a live one-day podcast awards. It's a film festival. It's a full-on media event. We're going to have sky watching. There's going to be a Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Linda Moulton Howe. Right now, you can submit your podcast, your film, your TV series, any of your paranormal media for consideration. You can do all of that on the links below. For info and tickets, go to parapodfilmfest.com. That's parapodfilmfest.com. April 7th through the 14th, 2023, I'll be hosting and presenting on the Hidden Secrets Seminar at Sea Cruise. From Los Angeles to the Mexican Riviera on the Navigator of the Seas. That's right, up top, a giant water slide. You've got to check out the Navigator of the Seas. It's amazing. We've got Scott Walter, Adam Apollo, Nick Pope, Brad Olson, Vivian Chauvet, Jason Shirka, Robert Grant, Ruben Langdon, and another 12 amazing speakers and presenters. It's all simple to do. Just visit divinetravels.com/Hidden Secrets 2023. You know you want to go on a cruise with me. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. Tonight, David Palmer, the Leo King. And the octopus comment, when that was announced, and you just read the fine print on that press release. It was pretty extraordinary. And the comment was, and it was a direct one, that the octopus, out of every species, and we've got strange stuff on this planet, out of everything here, it is the octopus that doesn't belong. It's the octopus that doesn't make sense. And the only way it got here was that it was brought here.
Right.
And I thought, wow. And then you go, I never was a fan of that kind of seafood, but I'll never do that again, ever, in any form.
No.
But when you analyze that and just give it
maybe
some
calamari.
No, not me. No. I'm done. But it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. I thinking about this comment and thinking of using the reference to it that you just brought up, it's like the old thinking was that possibly comets were the seeding of planets too, right?
That's right.
Right. So it's like, and that's why I called it a sperm, like a wild sperm earlier, because it does look, it kind of reminds me of this whole way of fertilization we see in mammals, right? But we can't also think of it in that way only because there's so many other species on this planet that aren't mammals. But there is kind of that interesting, what is this seeding too? It's like there's a trail to it. There's obviously, in this case, with it being green, something different about it. Because when Comet Neowise in 2020 was coming around in the middle of the pandemic, and that one was beautiful. It was so easy to see. The shots were amazing. It was beautiful to see it. And then it was things like the octopus that came out. It was also humanity trying new technologies, which, definitely were out of the normal order. So I'm wondering if this comic, because, there's more ancients that said it was a good thing than a bad thing. I want to make that clear. Right? So
I want to get back to Pluto, but speaking of sperm, have you made any public announcements?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so I can say congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
I've done it off the air, but I wanted to just do this on the air. It's pretty cool, man.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. My fiance Sophia's pregnant, and there's going to be a little David in some form of, we'll find out next week the gender. So it's pretty exciting.
Heaven help us.
And heaven help her, because I am, as a man, to go through this. I know you're a father. I haven't gone through this yet, but what a woman has to go through to bring a soul into this planet is the most humbling, experience I've ever had to experience in my life.
Yeah. It's so funny. You guys are having a baby. No, I'm not. She is.
I know.
Man, I'm still working out. I'm hanging out. I'm doing my thing. No. All of that is on her, and it's just an amazing thing to go through. So
right, but that whole process, if you think of it with how the universe is built, there's that kind of energy of a feminine energy, or at least the energy that brings this life in. So it's a question of like, is it things like comets? Is it asteroids? That's always been another weird part. We do have an asteroid belt that's around us. That's definitely something that broke apart. It's really interesting. And then you have something like Pluto, which actually in astrology represents fertilization, or implanting of like something was implanted here, like octopus and the species of that genre of, I guess, I don't even know where they're calling them now, sentient beings.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Well, and can I ask you? Oh, okay. So, um, I have you charted your son yet? Right. I mean,
or daughter.
yeah, or
Yeah,
daughter.
of course. We got the due date, and then I, of course, was already all over that.
Yeah, you're all over it, aren't you?
I'm all over the weeks prior, weeks after, and even I know the astrology from now till whenever. So yeah, I'm already in my head. Like
It's
okay.
already mapped out. It's already mapped out. I thought about that. What you just let everybody know. You know, I got the text, right. I was like, get out, right, Jimmy. This just happened. And now I'm reading the text, you know, and and all that stuff. Okay, cool. But I'm thinking he's already charting. He's working these numbers right now. So, but Pluto, again, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
It's a miracle. I go back a lot and I look at the pictures of the day that my daughter Nicole came in the world, and I'm in the house right there, fresh out of the oven. I'm minutes old, and minutes, right, and the things that happen here, in your heart and all. I'm going to get lump in my throat just thinking about it. That it is such a special thing. I'm jealous, man. You get to go through that. It's bleeping incredible. Most incredible thing you're ever going to do in your life. It hands down, guaranteed. So congrats.
It already has, and I haven't even got to that point yet.
No. You know what? Let me help you out. No, you know nothing. You know nothing. You think you do? No. Then talk to me.
I will give you that. 100%.
Talk to me later. You're right, Jimmy. You were right. Oh man. Okay, so back to Pluto. Because Pluto is so dang slow, right? It's so long in its orbit. Since its discovery, right? It's moved like this far, right? Right? It must have a more profound effect on everything because it's like always there.
Well, I mean, no, it's moved a lot since its discovery. I mean, it's 200, right? So you got Pluto that's 248 years around the sun.
Right. And it was discovered 80 years ago.
Right. But in its orbit around the sun, when it comes to where it was discovered, is its fastest point in a half circle around the orbit of the sun. Kind of like even Mercury has a point to where it's closer to the sun and farther away from the sun.
Plus, right? It's on a 15-degree ellipse.
Right. So it went through its fastest form to where it went through half of its orbit already. And then the next part of its half of the orbit is the longer part, which is the extra 148 years. Let's say if we were to take 100 years and use 2030 or something, it's already halfway through the orbit.
But I know
that's the fastest part. Now it goes in the very long, slow orbit that takes forever to come back. And it actually goes into the quote unquote underworld. So it dips below, right when it passes the galactic center, and then it dips down into the underworld. It's in that lower declination, and then it pops back up and goes into the north when it comes up by over where like Taurus, Gemini is and so forth, right? When it in Aries, when it comes back up. So it's like after Aries, Taurus and Gemini. So it's like at this point now where that's what's felt so weird about the world. We experienced it go from the northern declination to the southern declination into where it rules the underworld, and it goes out of any planet in our solar system down farthest, the lowest.
So because of its trajectory and the length of time of that orbit, does it have a more profound effect on everything because it takes so long to orbit the sun?
Yeah, I would say it's the it was the X factor that made us understand generations in general. Like the understanding that right now, you and I and anybody watching this is the same generation of Pluto's rotation as the ones that went through the American Revolutionary War. So you can take somebody's Pluto and go, you would have been, so people born in the 50s are the Benjamin Franklins. You and I are the George Washingtons, and believe it or not, so many of them were younger, believe it or not. A lot of people who signed the Declaration of Independence were the Pluto Scorpio and the Sag generation, which are the kids that are in their 20s right now. And that's what's interesting is most people who fought that war were Pluto and Sagittarius. And that's what's interesting is looking at how the military recruitment numbers are the lowest right now. And it was the same thing in the Revolutionary War.
Look at this comment. I can see the distinct influence of Pluto change. And then the very next comment is this. Isn't Pluto about transmission?
Transformation. I mean, it does have an ability to, maybe if we were to think of, I think it was just a story I saw the other day. I think I forgot what country just got an 8 billion year old frequency message from the beginning of the universe.
From the middle. Yeah, from the middle.
So I guess you could call that a transmission that's like, embedded from so long. But I mean, Neptune's more, it actually looks, if you look at Neptune and its trident, it looks like an antenna. So I would call like transmissions more Neptune, but Pluto is the generational element. But the other part of Pluto is like, for example, in 1892, it was in perfect alignment with Neptune. It happened in the sign of Gemini, which in America, it happened right where, when America's declaration was signed, was where Uranus was. So if you think of, they still have not come back together. Those are the two farthest outer planets. They take a long time to come together. They still haven't. And right when that happened was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and Gemini rules cars, telecommunications. And what is America known for? Telecommunications, computers, cars, all the things that Gemini rules. And we were the country that got the planets aligned of Pluto and Neptune together on our natal Uranus to be the hub of the world. So if you look at 1892 and the buildup of all this stuff, it's been from that transit. So it's more of a fertilization moment. And then it also, when it finally finishes some sort of completion of a transit, the end. It's the understanding of where the end of our planets go, because after that we start really thinking of them as like, exoplanets like Eris, which is on the 500-year orbit, or we start going, right, we start kind of almost like going, I don't know about that anymore. But there's something where we did consider it as a planet, and that's what Pluto's weird about, is like everything that Pluto represents, which is the ruler of Scorpio, is secrets, sex, uncovering things. And that's the stuff we don't like to deal with. We don't want to show it on TV. We don't want to talk about what the CIA is doing, right? So let's not also call that a planet anymore. And then people don't associate with those things that this world doesn't want to associate with. But that's what Pluto represents, is the stuff we don't want to associate with.
There's 50 comments I have with that. And here's my first thought. I think everybody was kind of offended when that happened. Right? Yeah. You can't do that. You're pretty much, if you get into the club, right? You're in the club. You don't get into Club Planet and then get kicked out because your shoes are too small. Right? That doesn't make any sense. And I think a lot of people were offended by that. And to hear the other part of some of the excuses, well, we've got other solar bodies in our solar system that are just as big as Pluto, but we don't call them planets. I'm like, no, those are moons, right?
Right.
That's another situation.
Which, of course, they tried to say because of Pluto's moon is almost the size of Pluto, right? That it kind of makes it weird too, or the fact that the outer planets are gas giants, for it to not be this big gas giant and be completely more odd, I guess you could say, would make it also for them to give the excuse. But I think it's funny that in the 70s we send those Voyagers 1 and 2 out, and then oh, it is Voyager 1 or 2 that's going to take the pictures of Pluto after we've discounted it. So we sent something up to take pictures of planets, use all these awesome timing to use the gravitational pull to finally get there, and then revel about the pictures and act like it's a planet, but not say it to, it was a really weird moment in 2018 when those pictures came out, because I'm like laughing as an astrologer, like, look at how obsessed they are and how they love it so much. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's an exoplanet. But then I saw in some articles people just being like, yeah, planet Pluto, like they just went. It was amazing. I was like, that was the planetary picture that blew my mind, was Pluto. I was like, there we go. That is some wild colors and some weird stuff going on.
Yeah. Looks like a planet, acts like a planet, walks like a planet. But they brought up Ceres. And why that it doesn't have a planet classification. Again, I'm not going there. And I'll tell you something else. When you look at, you've seen my telescope, right? Mm-hmm. You pop that baby in the backyard and you look at Jupiter in that thing. And until you see it, most people haven't. You look at Jupiter in pictures and stuff, and it's great. It's majestic. When you look at Jupiter, right, with a telescope for yourself, and you see its moon,
live,
and it's its own solar system, man.
Yeah,
and to me, it's like you're looking at the sun with Mars, Venus, right?
Well, that's what Jupiter is. It's being born into becoming a star.
We almost had two, right? We almost had a binary system here. But those moons of Jupiter when you see it like that, those are planets, is what I'm saying. You're looking at another solar system, and it's crazy to see. And they're lit up, man. They're lit up just like any star in the sky.
I know.
You see it in a telescope. That's absolutely incredible. But yet,
and that's why it's why the Greeks, of course, gave it Zeus, right? Like, oh, that Zeus, the all-powerful god, right, of the gods, right? Because it was so magical to them, and it was this great benefic energy of its power and might. And if you really think of the studies, if it wasn't for Jupiter and its orbit and its gravitational pull, we probably would be done with whatever come in.
We'd be pummeled. I want to make a comment. You had said earlier about comets and life here. That's how we got our water,
right? Or even the water they're finding on the moon right now, that they're obsessed and everybody's going running to go up there.
Comets.
Yeah, it makes sense because of what's ever in those trails. And that's what's interesting about the tails on the trails. That's so funny. The trails that the tails leave. It reminds me of a slug in a way. But it's kind of interesting of like, what are those things that are left behind? And I think we're finally thinking is, we have all these awesome abilities to think far and wide now. It's like, what's being left behind and where is it falling? I mean, it's passing the Earth. It falls. Maybe the particles hit our protection from our electromagnetic field and get burned out. I don't know. But they keep every time finding new stuff, even on Earth, like, hey, this is an asteroid that came a long time ago, and this is, I've never seen whatever this metal is, or this isn't part of our carbon stuff. This isn't part of our scientific table. It's like, what has been trailed on all this stuff, especially our moon? In the old days, they say the moon is alive. And that one always gets me, because I feel like that's what's the most interesting. It's the only body that we actually just sit and look at the only face of it the whole time. We don't see it make a turn or an orbit, but it orbits us, and it's perfectly looking at us the whole time. And I thought it was weird because we just had the Artemis mission that was awesome to get pictures from behind the moon, the dark side of the moon. And I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. I finally got to see a picture of a quarter of the dark side of the moon. But what was weird was Artemis took a selfie. So that made me think of, when we had the Apollo missions and we took the first picture of the Earth. And that picture, my grandfather had it and gave it to me, where I put that up in my bedroom. It was like, holy shit. Now I couldn't believe we had it again, but now with a selfie of an AI computer system with a fake human inside of it. Take a selfie on the dark side of the moon with the Earth, and so we got to see a new ingredient in the picture. We got to see
for the first in high definition too.
Well. I know, and I was like, whoa! And that just happened in this last couple month period with these eclipses too, and that full moon actually with Mars. That was the time.
What's so fascinating about what you just said is that the label, the dark side of the moon, because we can't see it, right? So. Right. We have this fixation dogma that it's dark,
right? When
it's not. It's lit up. It's in front of the sun every day.
I know.
Every day it is as lit up,
especially on a new moon.
Yes.
It's fully lit up.
It's fully lit up. It's more lit than the front side. And but we don't see that. And so to have Artemis with that ability to go and snap that shot where we, because we have this, we think it's dark. No, it's not. Every 12 hours, right? Something like that. It's the whole horizon to horizon. There are no shadows. It's so lit up.
Yeah, and that's what I think is interesting, is thinking about where we're going. Is if we thought about the 60s and where we went, the idea that, okay, this is the Earth. It's for sure got a curvature. It's for sure got this moon, and we could see it. And it was kind of funny. We started to move more into Hubble and things like that. And I think that was all important. But now to see that they're going back to the moon again, China is going back to the moon. Everybody's rushing to the moon and Mars at the same time. And that's what this full moon was. And I think it's really weird that this comet is passing right between where Earth and Mars are.
Now, and we, so after, once we get into March, let's talk, like March 1st, comet is now past us.
Yeah.
And what effects is that going to have? And when you do this, and when you're looking at the charts and looking at everything, the comet you didn't know about this comet a year ago. It was just discovered a year ago.
No,
right?
We talked about it, I think, on our last.
No, we did. We talked about.
I was on your show, and It was discovered in March, but I think we were talking about it like, we were unsure if it was going to be bright enough to see. Like there was all that talk. Remember?
But what I'm referring to is your charts 2 years ago.
Oh, correct. No, exactly. Right. They weren't. That's what makes them awesome, as far as they are disruptors. They disrupt. They come in. Whoa, they're shockers, right? Like, whoa, add this in.
And so now, right? Same charts, right? They haven't changed, right? But now we've got the great disruptor coming in, 2022 ZTF, which is, like you said, February 1st. It'll be at its closest point to Earth, and then it's going to zip past us, and then it's gone. So if we toast this out 30 days, I'm just pulling numbers out. We will have finished Conscious Life Expo. We'll be going to March. What does the comet do to the end of the first quarter?
I mean, it's pretty much when it approaches its closest to Earth is the moment, right?
Right.
And that says what Ptolemy would say is, where is that happening? And I'm using Ptolemy because without Ptolemy, we wouldn't be talking about planets and the rotations or any of this stuff. So Ptolemy says, look at where the area is. So I was like, okay, it's, happening by Ursa Major. It happened actually in Corona. It's high in the north. It's like the king of the north, basically. And then
It's Buddhist.
right. And and then now it's in Buddhist. And then I think it's going to Ursa. And then I think it's going to Draco.
Yeah, it's Draco.
Right. So it's like, okay, that area of the sky represents in tropical astrology, Cancer into Leo. Right. So, like, if you look down on our zodiac and understand our Earth and Sun connection of our tropical of Cancer and Capricorn on the Earth, right? So it's
Right.
like, oh, okay. Astrologically, Ptolemy would say, like, okay, what? This is where kings and stuff change. So already, New Zealand prime minister in this last day just resigned.
Yep.
People are saying, is Biden going to resign because he's not answering questions? You have a very weird moment. They're asking about that crazy, weird Republican GOP guy who lied about everything, Santos. Like, you need to resign. So it was always about seeing changes of big power. And especially when you're in this area of the zodiac, that's where you see changes of power, right? And so there's all been calls about changes of power. Even Kevin McCarthy, right? Like, up 15 votes to get in. Hadn't happened since when? 1859. And so, that was right when we were at with Jupiter and Neptune,
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's like, that's where it's like, oh, this comet's more bringing, especially it's the bringing us into, because we will never see it for a million years. Because of where the planets are, you also take that in consideration. I mean, it's definitely taking us to, obviously, whether you want to call that a hunch or a mathematical truth, we are definitely going to Mars because it's going to pass right between that. So obviously, that was in the cards. Somehow, some way, we're definitely going to Mars over these next couple of years. It's more about the long-term effect in my understanding, especially with the fact that we're not going to see it for a million years. If it was more on a rotational path of like 75 years or something, okay. But I think it's much more intense that it's green, and the fact that it's coming right between where Earth and Mars was. And then I was looking at other comets on that path. Of course, Neowise kind of had a similar path, but the one that had the most exact, precise path was the Great Comet of 1811. And that was a major moment in life. That's when King George lost his mind and they went to his Regency, his son, and he was walking around. And he was very obsessed with astronomy. And he was the one who lost the war to us here in America. And that was when the War of 1812 started. And then that was also when Napoleon was doing his wars and was keeping the English at bay. And that was helping us until he then gets, sorry, you're crazy, bro. And then, the British and everybody here in the White House burns down. And I looked at the astrology of 1812 to 1814, and boom, we're in the same progressions. We're in the same comet came in the same area. America's a Cancer. The sun of America is in the same spot. I'm like, oh, man. Then I looked at Ukraine and Russia. And that was also when people tried to invade Russia in the 1812 and to 13, 14, and they failed.
That was Napoleon.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Okay. So now, a lot of, and I want to thank Bill, our moderator, for posting the information on how to see the comet. I keep calling it the Green Comet.
I think it's the best thing to call it. I don't know what, 2022 EF, it's like kind of weird.
No, Green Comet ZTF.
Yeah.
And we'll just leave it there. That on its closest approach, it is going to be just above, look at the Big Dipper.
Right.
And that's where it's going to be, just above the Dipper part of the Big Dipper. What constellation is that?
I think that's Ursa. I mean, that's right by Draco and Ursa Minor, right? And I mean, honestly, you're headed towards where you were just in Egypt, right? Like, they all point towards the star Sirius and where it's at now. Back then, though, I try to tell people, like, sorry, Sirius was not there. All these fixed stars move, right, over time. But that's what's interesting is it's happening in the zone of where we see the North Star area, right? Like it's very pointed at the north.
Yeah, Bill, again, he's so good. Yeah, it's Ursa Major.
Oh, major, yeah, not minor. So
it's Ursa Major. That's all you have to do. And just go out 9 o'clock at night in North America, no matter what time zone you're in, you're 9 p.m., right? You don't have to adjust for time. You go out at your 9 p.m., look at the Big Dipper. It's going to be right there, naked eye.
And that's because the sun in our point from view, remember the Earth is actually at a place to where we are in that place, right? So the comet is behind us, but because of our night, that's when we are able to see because the sun's illuminating the other side of the Earth, right? In China, when we're, at night, they're awake in the day, but that's when we can see because the Earth is actually in that area. But when we look at astrology, people kind of don't remember that we're looking at where the sun is at from Earth's point of view and the background of the constellation behind the sun. So when we say we're in Capricorn moving into Aquarius, the Earth is not there. It's the Earth's viewpoint of it. People get that confused. Like they think, oh yeah, like sun's in this sign. I'm like, yeah, well, Earth's point of view, and that means we're in the opposite. We're with the comet in that zone.
When you and I were sitting in my backyard and you're walking me through all of this, right? And just when David, I'm going to be straight with you. I thought I had a grip of the heavens, right? Because I go out there every night, man. I got my computer, I got my thing, and my lining it up, and I got my binoculars and telescopes and night vision. I got comfortable chairs. I got a great backyard.
Got the laser pointer.
Yeah, got all that, right? Got all that going on. And you come out and just tip it all over for me. No, Jimmy, no. Actually, we're moving. It's that. Yeah, you understand it really well and the concepts of that.
Can I say something about that night? I told you when I was sitting there and I was looking in your backyard and I was looking towards Aquarius. So I was looking towards like where Skunk Works would be. Like I was looking on the horizon of what was rising, right? Because I said, oh, we're going to start to see Jupiter rise. And it was getting like 3 a.m. Remember? I'm like,
yeah.
And I said, the last time we saw this was 1963 of where we're seeing everything. And I said in November of 2022, an event that would take place that would be weird for the presidency would happen. And you said, all right, I'll call you on that. And we just found out that it was in November.
Yeah.
That the documents were actually being, that they didn't say anything for the whole time.
Yeah, that actually happened. And you know what was trippy is we watched Jupiter rise.
I know, it's beautiful.
Remember that? Yeah, that was great. How long were we sitting out there? Because
till 4 a.m.
Well, no, that's not my point. I mean, how long? Because we watched Jupiter come up. When we went in the house, Jupiter was above us. It just came
I think we got out there at like 9 or 10 p.m. or something.
Yeah,
it was like 6 hours long, but we were all just having a great time, and that was because you saw that. I don't know, you're the master, man. You don't need anything. You just see it. You know how to look through the stars and see what's not normal.
Yeah.
Never seen anybody be able to do it. And we all saw it at the same time because you pointed it out, and then we saw it move.
Oh, okay. What David is referring to, and you know what? That was a precious moment because that happened for real.
It did.
So I'm standing and facing everybody. Everybody is in a line in chairs, right? And we've got our gear and looking up, and I'm standing up being loud, and I'm facing everybody. And David's sitting right in front of me, and I go, now I got to tell you guys, man, a couple of days ago, I looked up and this object lit up and went bloop. And I go, and David goes, where? I go, right there. And right as I point, this frigging thing lights up and goes boop. And that was, oh man, you know what? That was the universe going, we're going to make you look pretty good, Jimmy. right now.
And if we all saw it and it looked like, oh, that looks like it could be it can't be a planet because it was so bright and it wasn't like twinkling either.
I know, and it just lit up. That was
And it
crazy.
lit up and then it moved
About that far. It didn't move.
know.
You know,
and then just disappeared. It was nuts.
That was crazy. Right there.
That's what's interesting about March is, yes, the comet will be done, but what it's ushering in February is it's like, you know, back in the day of like Happy Gilmore, just tap it in.
Right.
Okay. The comet is tapping in Pluto into Aquarius and Saturn into Pisces with Neptune, which hasn't happened since 1523. And then, of course, Pluto and Aquarius, which we've never consciously seen since the end of 1776 into 77, right there. Same thing. Boom. It's tapping it in. With some extra green, weird new stuff that we have, that's making it more of the excitement of the unknown. Some people that are on High Vibe said, or this one woman especially said, well, you know, she thought of the chakra colors like green and being the heart and being love.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So I was like, you know, that actually makes a lot of sense.
I've heard that a few times now. Actually, I think I saw it in the chat room at the beginning of the show tonight.
Yes. You know, it's like I'm open to it all. You know, nobody's the master of comets. That's the coolest part is nobody's mastered them and nobody's fully understood them going thousands of years and nobody's tried to act that way either. It's just more the debate is like some people just think it's a comet, whatever. Whereas like a lot of the ancient astrologers are like, pay attention to them and figure out as much as you can. And if it was Nostradamus, he would have been open enough to be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's pay attention to this. And what's happening at that time? It's always about the moment, like what's happening at that moment and what's the uniqueness of the story? Well, the uniqueness is, geez, we're going into a place. The last time Pluto left a sign and moved into a new one was 2008, right? When it did, boom, right? Obama became president. Like it's crazy. Like we are moving into where things change fast. The world changes fast. The financial crisis happened. I'm not saying those are the same things, but Pluto brings in a ushering of a new chapter that's fully like it doesn't. 2008 to now feels like nothing like the end of the 90s to 2008.
Wasn't Master of Comets Metallica's second album?
Oh, yeah.
I had to, man. I couldn't let that go. That was too easy.
Right. Or at the WEF, it's the Master of Future. That's what
right.
I don't know anybody that can master the future, but you know.
So the last two comets dissolved, right? And went away with the sun. And it kind of bummed me out. The way that things are looking right now, it doesn't feel that way, that this one is going to stay a comet. I know you said the tail breaking up thing, but I'm talking about continuing past this.
Continuing past, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's not going to break apart? Do you think it's going to be just beautiful for the next month?
I'm looking at an article that's from Skywatching saying the brilliant green comet loses part of its tail to solar storm in this stunning astrophotographer photo. So they're saying a solar storm affected it, which is again the question about the sun and that's like the big stuff, even with health going on and our polar shift. But we don't even have to go there. But that's an interesting part to the effects of even comets now. But
okay, I'm going to...
it doesn't look like, from what I'm reading here, that it's going to lose its capability for it to keep going or be seen or to disseminate completely.
Okay, so check this out. Let's just go. You ready?
Yep.
There it is right now.
Boom.
That's in real time. Here, I'll clean this up. Let me clean this up for everybody. I'm going to be really nice. There it is. It is live. Yeah, this is 21 hours in. This is just a 24-hour live stream.
That's awesome.
Isn't that just crazy?
Yeah, I love it. I love that we're having one. I'd rather have one than not, especially with where we've been. It's the thing that brings the changes that are necessary that we feel like haven't been happening.
Man, wouldn't it be crazy with this live stream fixated on this comet that's, some spacecraft zips by?
With you on this show, I would not be surprised.
I know, right? We're just sitting here. Yeah, check it out, man. Check out there. Whoa! But it wouldn't surprise me.
I love it with the background of all the stars that are twinkling, right?
Yeah.
And interesting on how the formation of the dipper, and it looks like you could do an X with the dipper part,
When you sit,
that's what's kind of crazy. X marks the spot. X Roman numeral 10 is actually really what is the understanding of Pythagorean understanding with trans numbers to 30, 24 trans numbers into 30. It's pretty deep stuff.
And with the monitor that I have here in the studio, right? You've seen it. Nobody else has seen it. It's big, right?
It's huge.
And so this is so cool in real time. I'm going to take my pointer here. This is not moving. But if you sit here and you just stare, this star right here, it's going, it's like one pixel at a time. Blip,
right.
Blip, blip. This is not. This is perfectly still, the head of the comet. But if you just sit here and you keep staring, it's so funny. That's not me moving it, by the way.
No, they have to adjust constantly.
There's somebody in their backyard, he's got a tripod, probably. I don't know how. But this back star, you can just see it. It's just going slowly back. This is moving towards us. And if you just sit there and look at it long enough, you can see like this. You can see the these back stars. You can see them just little pixel at a time. It's pretty fascinating.
Right. And that's what's interesting is, the fact that it's going to be heading towards Draco. There's a lot of stories on Draco. Of course, you hear them in the spiritual community as being kind of more intense, or there's different beings that come from Draco, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of an interesting thing of like, we have the UAP stuff, we have the sentient beings of octopuses. I guess I could have guessed that one, but that's what's interesting to me is the way the UFO stuff is going right now, and that this is coming into a zone of where the pyramids just so happen to be pointed towards of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
They have hieroglyphics of like pointing. That's why I'm saying I don't know I'm not a hieroglyphic Egyptian study, so I can't translate that.
Lisa, right? Yeah, thank you for this, Lisa. ZTF means the Zwicky Transient Facility where it was first seen, which was right here at Mount Palomar.
Awesome.
Yeah, right here, Southern California.
Thank you. What's going to be interesting is I think it's the evolution of our species, and that means maybe the invert of what other species are out there to understand what we really are. That's an evolution of a conscious part of a human not knowing, a Homo sapien that doesn't know really who we are because we don't know what to refer ourselves against, really. Something outside of what we're used to.
Well, that's right.
Environment.
Well, but this is what is so fascinating about that, where we kind of want to ignore where we just think that we're so smart now, right? And that we understand everything, and that we are where we are right now. But if we had a time machine and we went back 10,000 years, 15,000 years, 30,000 years, and we go up to Homo sapien and try to talk to them about where their capacity to understand is not there.
No.
simply not there. Their capacity to understand, they have a limit of what, we build on it and build on it over time. And here we are now. But if we meet an advanced species that's got us by 10,000 years, a million years, I don't know, pick a number. Our ceiling of the ability to understand something is not going to be in that ballpark. It's simply not.
Well, a lot of it too is, if based off the astrology of 1523 with Saturn and Neptune coming into alignment over the next 4 years, you're going to see them every time. You'll be able to see that Saturn and Neptune are aligning for the next 4 years. And in 2026, they're going to exactly align from Earth's point of view. And the sun's point of view, they're aligning around 2025, right? To 2026 too. But they're coming in right now in 2023. Like, wow, you could just start seeing the closure of Saturn on it. In 1523, it happened in this space last time, is right after Martin Luther pegged onto the church. Hey, I don't know if I want to do it this way. It's all been stories of how we are. Maybe we come from this. So this is going to be a religious odd thing because it's happening in Pisces that deals with religion, the age of Pisces that's coming to its close in this age of Aquarius. And that's what's weird, is if we start discovering things that aren't stories, but are actually, you could see it. Look at what starts to be discovered. Look what disclosure stuff starts to bring out. That changes the Homo sapiens storyline. And that's going to be the part of two different species. A species that wants to believe a story that we can't see, we don't know. And then a species that's moving into look at what's being exposed here and willing to open itself up and not feel, I don't know, if they accept what is showing up, that they're not going to go to heaven, or they're like, that's the stuff that I'm really looking at in the evolution, is like, it was already Martin Luther was, if you have the name Martin Luther, even King, it doesn't seem to go down too well, which is kind of an interesting thing. But it's like,
they were all moments of change.
Exactly.
They're all moments of change. And here's where you're right. Let me help you out here. Here's where you're right. So ET lands, right? And they come up to, I'm the science guy. You're the astrologer, right? You're the planets guy. They come up to us and they go, you know what? Church, that science stuff, the math. Let me tell you what works. The influence of the universe on everything. That's what they're going to look at you and go, man, keep doing what you're doing. You're on the right track. And I firmly believe that. I don't think it necessarily has to do with numbers.
Well, it's both. It's everything is about converging, that we need that, and right, you can't do it without the math. Like,
sure, that's
an
true.
Astrologer that's trying to be an astrologer right now and doesn't know astronomy and anything astrophysic at all, or is willing to understand orbits and declinations, is not an astrologer. You can't.
Right.
You're really not an astrologer.
You have to understand that. But what I'm referring to is that the sciences will call our discussion tonight pseudoscience. And
Right.
I think that ET is going to arrive here and say, Mr. Palmer, you've had it right all along.
I mean, that would be nice. I'm not going to hope for that, right? I'm just going, because that would also be putting my own ego in front of the work. I think what's the pseudoscience part is the fact that they only have done it off studies of horoscopes in newspapers and giving them to people, and that they knew were not their birthday, and them resonating with it and calling it as truth, that they call it a pseudoscience. But they're not talking about the
Right.
astrology that we're talking about, or how we're observing the comet coming by the Earth and Mars. That's never been looked at in that realm. That calls it a pseudoscience.
Dude, a sneeze.
That's a good sign.
Okay, it's gone. It's gone. It was there, though. Look at my eyes.
You know what? Sneezes are like comets, just out of nowhere. Whoa! That
It was there. It was there.
Excuse me. Like
it was there. Really quick, and I don't want to give stuff away, but where your head is at. But I just got to know. So Conscious Life Expo coming up February 10th through the 13th. We're going to be doing lots of things together all weekend. In your presentation, do you prepare for that? Or do you just put bullet points in your head and then you hit the stage and just go? How do you approach it?
Well, of course, with Conscious Life Expo, they want to know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I spent all of 2022 going and wanting to, and 2021, breaking the codes of John Dee and the works that they say is impossible to be understood of people at this time. I'm like, excuse me?
You're doing John Dee at the Conscious Life Expo?
Yeah. And Nostradamus, which I cracked his prophecies, right? They say you can't crack it. I was like, he gives all of it in his preface. And anyway, long story short, it's going to be about, can astrological influence of prophecy help us in these times of crisis instead of only looking at what is said to be as the only truth out there, that we have erased this even 2000 years ago, prior to the idea of Christ, they've been using prophecies through and providence through the understanding the celestial bodies. And my presentation is going to be like, what's the effect without it? What's the effect with it? And what would it look like if we used it today? And what has it already started to look like for people who followed it over the last 3 years? And are they better off or are they worse off? I mean, that's like the basic of it, but
we should do a John Dee show one day. I would
yes.
One of the most misunderstood and also I'm going to say neglected people, historical figures like ever. And I just don't get that.
It's because around that time it got a little hairy in 1564. He of course was the astrologer to Queen Elizabeth first, but he was also her main advisor, and he was the one who came up with the British Empire and maps.
Yep.
But he went to the Holy Roman Emperor because she wasn't wanting to add the extra stuff he had to say about the Pythagorean theorems and all these things that he was having revelations about. So he went to the Holy Roman Emperor to say, in order to form a republic, because he also is the beginner of creating the understanding of a republic, to try and bring back the republic energy of the senates of Rome and so forth, because you have to remember, it was just monarchs at that time. And so he kind of is in a sketchy situation where science and God and all that, and the new Church of England, right, that Elizabeth was holding on to, right, to make sure that Henry VIII's work didn't get back to the Catholic Church. So it was a crazy time, but that's what's interesting is looking at, he had to be very careful, and he was trying to show alchemy, and because he was an alchemist, he was an astrologer. I mean, he was everything. He was all of it in one. And that's what happened was then he had his own library and his own school to teach people. And that's really where his work is beyond what most people don't even know. And I mean,
they don't. He was at that point in time, he might have been, it's certainly at moments, the smartest person on the planet. And so if you're at that level, that means those that you are consulting, those that you are advising are below you. And that's a dangerous zone, man, to be in, because you're misunderstood and you're trying to convince people to lift their intelligence and understand these concepts that are going on. And that was the world of John Dee. Now we can look back and go, oh man, wow, genius, right? But back then, that's a dangerous place to be.
Because you have Da Vinci, right, at the end of the 1400s, and you're like, wow. I mean, I look at Da Vinci like that guy didn't even have to say it, even though he did journal it and he drew it, but his paintings speak louder than what they say. But I feel like it's weird because then you have Nostradamus, who's in France, at the same time as John Dee is in England doing astrology, and both of them are coming up with prophetic understandings of where we'll be and how humanity needs to try and understand, and only that less than 1% will ever understand this.
Mm-hmm.
And until we get to the point to where more people are open to it is when the Great Awakening, I guess if you called it today, or we get out of the Matrix, another way to look at it, will happen. And that's both of them and what their prophecies were.
Yeah, absolutely.
In different ways.
Yeah, we've got to do a John Dee show. I mean, I'm a John Dee fan. I know you are.
I'm a huge, big time.
Huge, man. And just some people.
He was actually a really positive guy. He was not like
He was awesome.
He was awesome. He was super cool.
Just an awesome guy, you know.
He was an advocate for human beings, our species, and God. It was like, and the universe, and the wonders of it, and he lived it 100%.
He did. He really did. He was just an amazing individual. So we should, man. We should give him his evening. I was just wondering, when's his birthday? Let's look.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's weird because it's back in the Julian calendar, but he's we
can just make it up then.
The comet's happening right where his son was when he was born, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so we can just make it up. We can come up with the John Dee birthday.
No, I know the birthday. I'm just saying that you have to use it differently. Like everybody's birthday in Gregorian, right? If you run somebody prior to the Gregorian calendar and in the Julian calendar, your astrology is going to be different.
Is Sophia coming to Conscious Life Expo?
Yes. I mean, she is pregnant, so we got a room there to be able to, I'm like, hey, if you need to take a break, I'm not going to. That's a lot. I just, especially that place. That place is an energetic a lot.
It's going to be great for the three of us to hang out, man. And,
I know.
So I'll see you in 3 weeks. I'm going to be going. We might as well just tell everybody now. I'm going to be going south. I'm going to go to a David's studio, and we're going to do a thing down there. And we were kind of planning on doing it tomorrow, but I guess we'll do it next Friday.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah, we'll do it next Friday, live from Palmer's. I'll talk to you. The Leo King, David Palmer, thank you so much. It's theleoking.com. Links are below. We've got them throughout social media. David, you're the very best. Go follow David.
You're the man.
On Instagram. No, you the man.
Or Twitter. I'm on Twitter a lot lately. That's been more fun.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed you picked up the pace there.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. David, behave, man. Have a great evening.
Thank you, man. Love you, brother.
Love you back. The absolute very best. And now I'm going to get out of here. We just ran over, so let me just make that really good. Again, congratulations, David and Sophia. That is absolutely amazing. Fade to black. All right, so now we are in the weekend officially. We're in the weekend, so I want everybody to have a great, safe, fun, amazing weekend. And we're right back here on Monday. My guest on Monday, sneak preview, Leslie Kane, right here on Fade to Black. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR with the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Have a great, safe, fun, amazing weekend. I know I will. Be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.